All right, everybody. Welcome to the Willamette Valley Spotlight Podcast, where we get together at local professionals to just get a little bit deeper dive into who they are, what they do, and a little bit how they're making an impact in their communities today. Now, today's guest for Season 2, Episode 2 is Heather. How do you pronounce her last name again?
Rauh.
Rauh.
Rhymes with wow.
She is a mom, a local real estate agent here, and we're just gonna get to know her a little bit and see what she's up to these days.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's good.
Cool.
Thanks, Billy.
So kind of a topic that has been going around a little bit is a lot of fear. Fear in the marketplace, fear in the economy, fear in housing market. And as we're kind of going through that, let's just kind of chat a little bit about what people's fears are, what they're afraid of, what they may not know, and just kind of maybe shed some light to move past those fears into a more positive conversation for our buyers or for our clients or partners or whatever that looks like.
Yeah. I'm sure you hear this as a lender too. I'm excited to hear the version of fear that you get hit with.
Yeah, you're good.
Okay. So what I tend to hear a lot is a fear to make a move, right? So either you're renting and you're going to buy for your first time,
Mm-hmm.
or you have a place to sell and you're ready for more, but you're like, do I do it now? The market's slower.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I could have gotten $20K more for my home 6 months ago, right? That fear of missing out and fear of making a wrong move. Do you hear that as a lender too? You get that like
I think there's making the wrong move or just being afraid of the unknown. And I think the biggest way we get past that is education. It's when we're afraid of what we don't know. We're afraid of making the wrong choice, making a choice that's not the right choice at the right time.
I tend to think where I see the most fear is when people think that there is one right choice. There's one answer.
Yeah.
And I have to find the right answer.
Yeah.
It's like we're both married, right? You know, that process of like falling in love.
Right.
And you're like, there's one person. I had to find the one person. Oh my God. What if I got the wrong person? And then I have to get rid of them to get the right person. You know?
Yeah.
Like, there's one right answer.
Yeah.
The truth is in life, like there's not one right answer.
You know, there's a lot of different ways to skin a cat. I'll just say that.
I try not to skin cats.
And there's I think when we have a lot of our clients, they're listening to the news. It's all fear-based marketing.
Well, that's what sells.
That's what sells.
I
mean, if you look at statistics from, I was actually watching this the other day, statistics for what sells on TikTok. It's fear-based.
Yeah.
It comes out on top.
Right. Don't make this mistake.
Neutral is about 20,000 views less on average. Positive actually is the worst out of the three. So
depressing.
I know it's so bad, but you know, that's what drives people. That's a huge motivator. But how I look at it is let's switch that up. Let's go to looking at what bigger corporations are doing, like let's say Coke or McDonald's, or you never see a sad person eating a Big Mac on a commercial.
Right.
They're selling the experience. They're selling the positivity. They're selling the, hey, if you use this product, you're going to be happy. So why don't we take that into account for how we're moving through a real estate market? It's not necessarily
what do you mean?
Like what are the we're not looking at the pains of home ownership.
Right.
We're not looking at the pains of, say, interest rates or housing prices. Let's look at, what does being a homeowner mean to you? What would that mean for you to take that step into investing in your lifelong wealth through home ownership? What would that mean for you as, say, maybe you're the first homeowner in your family? Let's have that conversation with our people and our partners and our clients, rather than, you know, don't buy, interest rates suck, or, you know, housing prices are still really inflated, don't buy.
Yeah. So it's interesting that you say, like, let's have the positive conversation. And I say, yes, but, because I find that if people come to me with their fears and if I don't acknowledge and help them work through their fears,
Right.
then I'm ignoring their fears.
Yeah.
And that is very scary.
Yeah.
Right. Like if I come to someone and I have a concern and they just dismiss it, or they want to like skip over to happy land, I'm like, I don't trust you.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
There's like an immediate lack of trust.
Yeah.
So I think the fears there's validity in the fears, because you do want to make a smart move. But I think there's definitely a lot to be said in what you're talking about of like, let's focus on what this could be, not just what you could lose. Right. Because that's when you go down the tunnel of like despair and like the sky's falling and all that's good, not good stuff. Because you're wrapped up in it. You're wrapped up in like what bad could happen.
Right.
And maybe you do the same thing with like falling in love or having kids. Like a lot of bad could happen.
Yeah.
A lot of good can happen too.
Right. You got to take
you're
the
gonna
good
miss
with the bad.
you're gonna miss out on the good.
Yeah.
If you are just focused on what could go wrong.
I think that's what shapes us. That's what shapes us as people. It's
Which
not
part?
It's not just the good. It's the taking both sides. You think like
well, how you respond to it.
Yeah.
Right? Like how you choose to handle a difficult situation.
Mm-hmm.
And I think about the housing market, and like you talked about focusing on the good, like there is so much good that comes with the home.
Yeah.
There's so much good.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And there's a lot of negativity out there around housing from real estate investors. Like if you listen to real estate investors online,
Yeah.
there's a lot of negativity. I read a lot of those books.
Yeah. You're good, sir.
I've read a lot of those books, and it's very negative perspective to primary homeowners, which I think is really disappointing and a really missed opportunity.
Yeah.
Because it's where you're going to raise your kids. It's where you're going to build memories.
Yeah.
It's where you're going to create security. And all those are really beautiful things.
Yeah. I mean, looking at that, like the statistics of, say, for like kids being in a home versus being in a place where they don't have that stability. It's like there's more kids going to college who were in a home than were not. There's more.
That's an interesting stat. It makes sense.
There's more success rate in, say, the younger years when kids are in a home versus moving around a lot. I mean, having a home, having that foundation,
that stability.
Yeah, it's huge. It's huge for kids growing up, and having that impact their lives is huge. Is really huge.
Your own mental well-being as an adult too.
Yeah.
Right. And I listen to. Do you ever listen to like overseas podcasts and stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's really fascinating. And I had that recent experience where I traveled to Canada, and I was talking to someone, and it hit me. I was like, oh, the U.S. has fixed interest rates. There's a lot of countries.
Canada does not.
No, they're not fixed interest rates.
No.
Like, oh man, that would be really scary with the market going up and down, and like suddenly your housing price is changing dramatically. Like, oh wow, now my house payment is an extra $800 a month.
Right, and there's so many factors.
In a series of 18 months, like that's like terrible.
Yeah, for Canada, just a little insight for comparing how other loan programs work around the world. United States has typically multiple different products, of course, but they have a fixed product, which is really typical. Canada works in more of like what you would see in a commercial style product, where it's amortized over, say, 30 years, but you have a balloon like every 5. And so you're consistently refinancing. They have different ways of qualifying you, not necessarily on the amortized payment, but what that adjustment is every time. So you've got a lot of people that are constantly refinancing, and it's a tough business to be in.
Yeah. So I think about things like that, and I'm like, I'm really grateful for how our financing is structured in the U.S.
Yeah.
I know there's a lot of people, especially small business owners, really get hit when it comes to qualifying. It's very stringent. And yet, like, there is so much to be grateful for.
Yeah.
For those fixed interest rates and the security in that. Let's go back to those fears, like working through the fears. We talked about what is the truth in the fear? Like when you hear the fears, what's the truth
Right.
there. Like, you know what I mean? Because like every fear has a seed of truth.
Yeah.
And I think boiling it down to what that is and then how to mitigate that is really helpful. Because when I think about housing and I think about fear of the market and that one size fits all thinking of like there's one right answer, I think that's where like the flaw and the break happens, because there's never one right answer.
Right.
And it's more like stacking the deck in your favor. Like, what is your situation? Like, if someone's buying the home for the first time, it's a very different approach than someone who has a home to sell. Yeah. Than someone who inherited a home. Than someone who has like can afford as much home as they want, but they want multiple properties. Like the techniques are so different.
And I'll give an example of something that I worked through with a client last year. Okay. They waited for a very long time to buy a home. Okay. Their biggest fear was interest rates. Mm-hmm. Yes, rates were great, but they wanted to wait. And I had the conversation. Okay, well, you're afraid of a payment. Why is that?
Was this a conversation you had last year?
Last year.
Okay.
Why are you afraid? It's like, well, we're on a fixed income. We have 3 kids. We're expecting a 4th. We're really worried about having something that is potentially going to change. Mm. And they wanted to see, well, can we wait to see what the future brings that could be a better outcome? So we had the conversation and discovered tomorrow's not promised to anybody. Like, we don't know what's going to happen in a year. Right. What does this scenario look like for you now with this specific payment, with potentially having another kid? And we discovered that for them, uncertainty was just the biggest push point for them. Mm. So we decided, hey, for them, the biggest, I guess the best decision for them was to wait and see what was going to happen. Unfortunately, things didn't work out in their favor.
Rates went up.
Went up, but some truth in fear. Trying to, and that's a really good question. That's like one that has kind of stuff. What does that mean for you? What does that?
Yeah. So it's not, you can't make it no risk. Right. It's not a like riskless situation. Right. And when you make a big commitment and you put a lot of money down and you're taking on a mortgage and you're taking on, if the furnace breaks, that's on me. Yeah. If the pipe backs up, that's on me. Yeah. Right. If there's a border dispute with my neighbor, I have to deal with it. Right. Yeah. Like that, it is not riskless and it's not perfect, and you can do everything you possibly can. And sometimes life just kind of like kicks you down, down a little bit. Yeah. So, and that's a smart, like eyes wide open, like adulting. Yeah. Yeah. I can use the phrase like adulting reality. Like it's smart thinking. Yeah. I find when I have clients that are in this, like, yes, it's risk. And I'm like, absolutely. What are the risks that you're living with right now? And do those outweigh, right? Is it better for you to take this risk, this calculated risk? We're not talking about a blind risk. We're not leaping into the void. Yeah. What risks are you already living with? And what do they expose you to? And then how do you move forward? Yeah. Because an interesting thing about the market is that when people worry about like the housing prices going down if they buy. They're like, what if I buy? And then the housing prices drop. Like, well, that could happen. Yeah. What if that happens, your rents will go up? Yeah. Right? Because people still need housing and our area is still growing. Yeah. So if less people can buy, more people will rent. Rents will go up. Yeah. So you're like, there is risk exposed either way. Yeah. Which one do you want to? Which one do you want to take?
It's.
Yeah.
Which clean end of the turd do you want to pick up from? Oh, that's awful. I know. I know. But honestly, like you think about it, like sometimes you can't win. In a way. There's sometimes it's better just to do it and live with the consequences than to not.
I like to think of it as stacking the deck in your favor. Yeah. And you're making a calculated risk. And housing, I find that people tend to talk about the housing market like they would talk about the stock market. And that's a really unfortunate situation. So in the stock market, we talk about like buy low, sell high. Like everyone knows you're supposed to buy low, sell high. Yeah. And everyone's supposed to know also that you buy and you hold for 30 years. Yeah. Don't
Yeah.
just like sell again. We're not day trading here, right?
Right.
And housing, same thing. So you have to have a longer term mindset
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to housing.
Yeah.
And I had some clients, we were selling, this was a couple years ago, and the market was hot. And they had been in their home for 20 plus years. Like,
Yeah.
they had tons of equity in their home. They were making a calculated move across the country to be closer to grandkids. It was
Cool.
great. It was like so happy. And I remember them expressing some frustration. They're like, well, we're selling at the top of the market. Like, we feel that. This is the top. I was like, it really is. Like, we're going to be at the top of the market for a little while, but like, you are nailing it. They're like, but we have to buy at the top of the market too.
Correct.
Yes. So when you're selling, so the people that are like, I have a home to sell and I got this really low interest rate, but we need a bigger place or we need to make a calculated move,
Mm-hmm.
and we're going to sell for maybe 10 or 15 grand less than we could have a little bit ago, but they're still sitting on 150, 200K of equity, right? But it's not that they can't sell.
Yeah.
It's just like, I could have sold, right? It's all theory, of course, right? Like, I could have sold for a little more. It's like, well, but you're going to buy in a down market and a shifty market as well, or a slower market as well. You can't sell high and buy low. You can't sell high on a Tuesday and buy low on a Wednesday.
Right. It comes down to strategizing. You're like looking at, like you were saying, looking at that long-term plan, because housing is long-term. We've had a lot of mentality based on the short term these last couple of years, because we had such a hot market, low interest rates.
People could make quick moves.
People can make quick moves. People's equity shot up 150 grand overnight.
Well, over a year and a half.
Over a year and a half. Yeah. Look at long term.
Overnight in the world of housing.
Yeah. So we're having to push past that mentality now and go back to the long term conversation with people. Yes, rates are 6.5%, 7%, 7.5%, 8%. You got to look long term.
And those were more standard.
Yeah.
Right. So I think that's part of what I hear in the fears is, what if I make a mistake? Am I stupid? Like, I want to sell. Am I stupid to sell?
Yeah.
Like, no, you're not. Like, can you afford the next house?
Right.
Like, talk to your lender.
Yeah.
Because the interest rates are different than when you bought.
Mm-hmm.
But can you afford the next house?
Yeah.
Do you want the next house?
Yeah.
Is that the right move for your family?
Yeah.
And because you're having the fourth kid, or you're taking a job promotion, or you're moving across the country to be closer to your grandkids, or whatever the reason, right?
Yeah.
Then, like, the whole point of the house is it's for your life.
Yeah.
And we want to be smart and build wealth in the process.
Yeah.
So yes, and this is your life.
Yeah.
Here, we're talking about.
So we got a wealth of knowledge between us two. Like, where does that wealth of knowledge come from? Tell me a little bit more about who you are and where you came from to get to where you're at today.
I came from a little town. My dad built a payphone business back when, like, payphones made bank, like before cell phones. Do you remember that time?
Yeah.
Before cell phones? I remember.
I remember the bricks. Like, my dad, like, growing up in the 90s, and like, I remember he had like a card he would put into his cell phone. It had a slot for
minutes.
a card. Yeah.
Yeah, because you buy the minutes on the card.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Wild. Oh man, the days. So he built a very successful payphone business.
Cool.
And just was always smart with strategizing and property and money. And I was, we'd go anywhere, and I was always fascinated at, like, what are the housing prices here? Just kind of a little obsessed. I have a degree, I have a double major. It's so funny. One in theology and one in philosophy.
Okay.
Yeah. So I've always approached life like thinking and strategizing is just like, that's like my sweet spot. I love it.
Yeah.
And got into real estate, wasn't sure what to expect, and just like working with people and like helping them find, like, this is what they want and this is where they're going, and problem solving the path. Like, oh man, I love it. So got into real estate with the mindset of wanting to have rental properties, and thought I could learn the fast by being a real estate broker. Yeah. And working with clients, I was like, oh, this is fun. Like, this is so much fun. Yeah. And it's so cool to walk that journey with people. It's very like kumbaya, you know? And because it's, you have this goal and you're working towards it, and like usually people have been thinking about the transition for a really long time. And then I come in at just the right moment. They're like, okay, we're ready. And they're just like, it's this sprint process of getting to the next milestone. And it's just a delight.
Yeah.
Hi, go ahead.
You're good. Good.
All right. Thanks. So we bought when I was a brand new real estate agent, didn't have any clients to work with. I'd work and call and stuff all morning, and then I'd have a few hours in the afternoon before I had to get the kids. And I would just like speed see houses. Like I just go to one house after another.
Yeah.
And our first property, we bought a duplex.
Cool.
Renovated it, lived in one side, rented the other. 18 months later, bought another house.
Cool.
That we moved into. And before we did that, I forced $70K of equity into the home in like 10 months and got a HELOC. Yeah. So excited for that.
Yeah.
And because I did it because I was like, I want to buy more properties and I need to be able to tap the equity. And so that process.
Yeah.
Right now we have 4 properties. So I have one that's a long-term rental. And then we bought this property that I didn't mean to buy another property.
What's the amount of time that you did from between the duplex to now?
I bought 5 properties in 6 years.
Okay. Long, short, medium. I would say medium term.
I was sprinting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sprinting. Yeah. So we bought the duplex in 2017. I had another property I had bought in 2016. That was an investment property. And then we bought our primary residence in 2019. I bought land on the beach in 2020, and then we bought an Airbnb in 2021.
Got it.
So it's been a bit of a sprint. And the Airbnb property is actually here in Salem.
Cool.
And that wasn't unintended. I was looking to build on the coast first, and this property came up, and we just fell in love with it. It was so amazing. We're like, we would live here if we didn't have kids, but we have 3 kids.
Yeah.
And I love them. I'm not getting rid of them for the house.
Right.
So I was like, well, what if we buy it now? Rent it. I've always wanted an Airbnb.
Yeah.
And then when we're empty nesters, we'll have 15 years of mortgage paid off. And we'll move in. So
how cool.
Yeah.
How cool.
So it's been a lot of fun.
So what does that mean for your clients then? Like taking that knowledge, how does that help you help them with their goals?
Yeah. So I actually have a method I've coined, which is called Sell Rich. Sell Rich, fast and easy.
Yeah.
And so I think there's a really missed opportunity in Oregon, especially, that we don't prepare our homes very well for sale. I think typically, like most real estate brokers, and that I did this for years, and I've started to change this as I work with clients and we get on market and we do some basic sprucing, you know what I mean? And we take great photos and we do those things.
Yeah.
But then you get knee deep in a contract or chest deep in a contract.
Yeah.
And you suddenly learn all these things about a home that are wrong. And you have to fix them. And luckily, I know a lot of contractors, both through the process of owning my own homes and fixing them and working with clients. But it was just really stressful for sellers. Like it is a agonizing experience to be like, I'm planning to move in 2 weeks, and now I need a roof and a sewer line, and there's dry rot? Question mark? Like, so stressful.
Yeah.
So now we go through this process where we prepare your home to sell rich and sell easy, because we do all of that in advance. So my clients do inspections, we do reports, we repair, we analyze everything about the home first to when we go on market, and so that we can force equity in a home too, even in a short period of time. Like if you're right, if you can do it right from like a marketing perspective and really stage it, you can get a good 20, 30K. I can't tell you how many times I walked in a home and been like, these 5 things were done like easily another 15K, like without sweating, because it's like the package, it's how you present it, and it's how you put it together, and
it's all perspective. I mean, or it's all a little bit. The
buyer's perspective.
Yeah,
the buyer's perspective is what matters.
Yeah,
like if you can make it easy for them, because just like your fear, right? Just like any homeowner's fear of like, am I going to get enough money? Am I making the right move?
Yeah.
And inspections, Mike, I mean, you're dropping a good $850, $900 just to inspect a home.
Yeah.
And maybe you've paid an appraisal fee too, or whatever else, and you're out like $1,000 or more. And now, like,
maybe that's the
I need to walk away
insurance policy ever, because like because then going back to the fear, like then what if you did buy that home and you had, instead of $1,200 worth of inspections, you had $45,000 worth of repairs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You need to do it.
Yeah.
You need to do it. Are you saying the buyer or the seller?
The buyer.
The buyer.
Well, if the buyer's buying the home.
Yes, and that's standard practice. Is
Yeah.
that in Oregon, the buyers do all the inspections.
Mm-hmm.
There's places in California where the disclosures and the liability on the seller is so much more extreme.
Yeah.
And you see sellers paying for their own inspections. That's much more common in California, and you
Yeah.
don't see it here.
Yeah.
But I find it's much, much cheaper for my clients to figure out what's broken on the home and fix it on their own timetable.
Yeah.
They can be picky about contractors. They can plan in advance. We can fix things and then consequently price the house higher.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
So question. So for a seller, when you're looking at listing their home,
Right.
would you then encourage them to get a home inspection done prior to listing
100%.
and chat with the contractor, have those bids and everything up front so that those disclosures to the buyer are already there and they know
Yeah.
what they're walking into?
Yeah.
How does that affect the sellability of a home?
Oh my gosh. It's amazing. It's amazing. So I do a 2-stage like rinse and repeat cycle when it comes to inspections. So I go through the home with my client and we have an initial list of just everything that's obvious that we can repair, right?
Yeah.
Like part of the fence is falling down. We've got paint scratches over here on the cabinets. Like we've got like a list of things that we do
Yeah.
and anything that we already know about. And we get through as much of that as possible. Then my clients, we book an inspector. For any of you inspectors out there listening, get a website because
Right.
I will only have my clients choose someone that a buyer can look up online.
Mm-hmm.
We don't work with an inspector that a buyer cannot look up
Yeah.
because how valid is that? I don't know.
Right.
It could be your Uncle Joe.
No
I don't
one
know.
knows, likes, and trusts that person. No one can tell.
No.
There's no-
Exactly.
yeah.
If you're an inspector, get a website because
Yeah.
I won't work with you unless you have one.
Yeah. This is not a sponsored ad. There's Wix, there's Squarespace, GoDaddy. Check them out.
Right. So we do a general home inspection, sewer scope, radon, HVAC professional. We get it inspected and cleaned, all of it. And then from that report, we make a second list of a
Mhm.
go-to plan. And you don't necessarily fix everything in a home.
Yeah.
Some of it is just a strategized clean or repair. Usually we're looking to repair versus replace whenever possible.
Mm-hmm.
And that actually becomes a part of the disclosures. So our disclosures are insane. I can tell the number of realtors that are like, this is the longest set of disclosures I've ever had. I'm like,
Right.
yeah. And no one's going to sue my client.
It's like it's like painting. It's all the work's all in the prep. It's
Yeah.
it's not so much when you're finally in the thick of it and you got
Yeah.
paint all over the place. It's the prep.
And it's proactive,
Yeah.
right? You're getting ahead of it
Yeah.
and nothing's going to remain a secret.
Yeah.
I think there's this old school way of thinking that's like, well, if I don't have to repair it, I don't want to.
Right.
Or maybe they won't find out. And it's like, one,
gonna
if
know.
you know, you have to tell them.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, I won't lie. And it's like, but if I don't know, then I don't know. And I'm like, yeah, but they're going to know.
Yeah.
They're going to hire an inspector.
Yeah.
Like, they're going to know. So it's not a secret. So let's know first
Yeah.
and create a plan.
Yeah.
And buyers are just so peaceful. They
Mm.
come in and they're happy to pay price. And
Right.
we don't get in that situation where, so I can tell you many times when I'm representing the buyer and we're going through a home and they take a look at the furnace that's maybe 15 years old and they're like, does it work? Is this house sales price with this furnace that maybe works? Does
Yeah.
it need a new furnace? Will they
Yeah.
replace the furnace? So there's this risk. They're like, do I spend $1,000 on inspections as a buyer?
Mm-hmm.
Only when I only want this house if the furnace is replaced, but I don't know if the seller's going to say yes. So it's just, it keeps offers back. Like if you want to open up the purse strings of buyers, you
Yeah.
do your own inspections.
Yeah.
And then you show them
Right.
so that everyone's on the same page of what they're buying because
Yeah.
that honeymoon phase
Yeah.
is the perfect time.
Yeah.
And then people are so peaceful. They're like, oh my gosh, you took such great care of your home.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I would love to buy your home.
Of
Like, look at
course.
the work that you've done and you've
Yeah.
prepared and you care and I would feel great about inheriting this home and I'm going to prepare and care. And it's just like, it's so positive.
Yeah.
And that's what people want is
Yeah.
they want peace of mind and it's a game changer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So hearing all that, like, if you could go back to when you first got your license, like, what advice would you give yourself say if you're starting today.
About what?
As,
there's so much advice
I
I give my
so let's go towards like the real estate side, not the investing.
Yeah.
If you were a new real estate agent today and you were giving yourself advice, what would that be?
For homeowners, like with the client in mind.
No,
I'm assuming.
yourself as like a real estate agent, like real estate agent to real estate agent.
Real estate agent to real estate agent.
Would you do things differently? Would you do them the same?
I get on social media sooner.
Yeah.
From like a business perspective. I think there's just such a learning in the process. You know?
Yeah.
Like I got a lot of advice from other realtors with what they would have known or wish they would have known. But everyone has to go through their own learning process.
Was there a lot of fear in the beginning?
As a realtor?
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
No. I mean, there's hustle because it's new. I was
Yeah.
brand new to the area. I knew no one.
Yeah.
So like that is its own hustle.
Yeah.
I joined a real estate team.
Okay.
And you make a lot less money. You do just as much work or more and make a lot less money when you're on a real estate team as you split up more of the commission.
How important is that to be on a team versus going solo?
When I first got going, oh man, it was key. And I viewed it as I was making a choice for an apprenticeship.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't tell you how many people were like, don't do that. You're giving up so much of your money. And I was like, but I'm going to learn like 10 times as fast as this other person over here.
Yeah.
Because I'm exposed not only to all my own deals and more deals because it's support from the team. I get to work with more people.
Yeah.
But I get to hear intimately everyone else on my team and the troubles that they face. And we're going to problem solve together. And you just learn really fast.
Yeah.
So I was really thankful I made that choice because I did 5, at least it was like 5 to 10 times. It wasn't 10 times, was it? Yeah, it was at least 5 times the deals in 1 year as an average real estate broker enter the market.
Wow.
And I did it in 7 months as a brand new agent. Yeah, it was just kind of crazy. But it was good because I learned fast.
Yeah.
And then I was able to bring more to my clients because I learned so fast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that I think in this industry, experience is like you can't buy that. It's intangible. It's that gift that we bring to our clients, to our partners.
Yeah.
That you can't just go in and know.
And that's why I struggle with that question of like, what advice would you give your younger self? And I'm like, well, advice isn't what I needed. It's experience.
It's experience.
That's what I needed.
Yeah.
And then as the questions arose, then I sought advice actively.
Yeah.
But like there wasn't like a one advice answer. So to another realtor starting off, get on a team.
Yeah.
Like get on a team and learn hard because you're going to do both yourself a favor, but you're going to do your clients a favor because you're going to bring the team's knowledge and experience. And you're just going to learn so much faster and you're going to help your clients so much more. Yeah. Yeah.
What's your advice then for home buyers or for people that want to sell their home? How do they choose the right agent? How do they choose the right lender? How do they choose the right people to work with?
Yeah. It's really nice that there's a lot of different lenders and realtors to work with because different personalities, different energy level, different niches in the market. So I like that there's a variety, I think that's good.
Yeah.
I would say you want to look for someone who's open-minded and really asking you as the homeowner or buyer, like so many questions. Because back to that, like there's not a one-size-fits-all answer. Yeah. Like certainly a red flag is don't work with someone who's afraid. Mm-hmm. So if someone's giving you a canned answer, they're like, buy, now's the right time to buy. It's like, well, but is it?
Right.
Is it for this person versus that person versus them? Everyone's situation is so different.
Yeah.
There isn't a one right time to buy or sell at any given time. The question that I always kind of bite my lip over every time I get asked is, small talk. You meet someone kind of like people meet a realtor, they find out I'm a realtor and they say, how's the market? Yeah. And what they just mean is, hi, how are you? You're nice. I want to ask about your business, but I don't know what to ask, And there isn't a right answer. And I've heard so many realtors be like, oh, it's a bad market. Oh, it's a soft-only market. Oh, it's this. Oh, it's all this guy's fault. Right? It's like, it's either fear or it's just like denial. Oh, it's great. It's great. It's great. It's totally great. Do you want to buy? Do you want to sell? Do you want to buy? Do you want to sell? And I hear this question. I'm like, well, it's not. It could be good or bad depending on what you want to do.
Yeah.
How do we stack the deck in your favor?
Yeah.
And there's always micro markets. So even right now in a quote slower market, right, in Salem specifically, like there is not enough homes
Yeah.
in the like 400s.
Yeah.
If you have a home in the 400s and you're looking to upgrade,
Yeah.
you were like, ooh, you were primed.
Yeah.
Because you're basically at like entry level housing, but it's you still got a good thing to sell because that is not a cheap house.
Yeah.
Right? You're just under $500,000. It's not a cheap house.
Yeah.
But then you want to upgrade to mid 6s, 700s. That's where inventory is a little beefier.
Yeah.
You've got some choices. You can get seller paid closing costs.
Yeah.
You can go from doing some repairs on your other home that needed work to like, oh man, this furnace is 3 years old.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
You know?
I think maybe those people that are in those price ranges have bought maybe 3 to 5 to 10 years ago. They've got equity. They're sitting on a couple $100K of equity. They've got a little bit more stuff to play with, whether they're doing seller paid closing costs or rate buy downs or a little bit more leniency on repairs or whatever that looks like. They've got a little bit more to play with. Yeah.
Yeah. And then usually after that span of time, like people have maybe increased their income. So like, wow, this house was really hard for us to buy, even at the low interest rates 5 years ago.
Yeah.
But now like I've doubled my income and that nice house is pretty good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I'd say for homeowners, well, that was the question, right? Homeowners now, like advice to give is and what to seek in a lender or a realtor is someone who really, really listens and wants to understand your situation and help you seek a solution, one of many solutions. So I always like to think through like, what are like 2 to 3 possible paths we can take?
Yeah.
And let's see how it works on market and then pivot and you know what I mean? Like we have like 2 to 3 plans. We have plan A and plan B and we're not super stoked about plan C, but we could do it.
Right.
And then that's how we kind of game it and strategize. So someone who's thinking through those pieces and really understanding the client, right? The person who's selling and buying, their life matters.
Yeah.
And if a lender and a realtor, they just kind of want to do a one size fits all.
Yeah.
You know,
I think
it's not a good fit.
For me, it comes down to actually getting to know the person, understanding their needs, their wants, their goals, their short term, their long term.
Yeah.
How many kids they have, what's their dog's name, like what you've got to know everything, not only because it helps the client understand you and how you're going to work, but you get to work through those tough parts together, those easy parts, the whole picture together, not just hey, you're going to get an update from me, every week on where things are at. No, let's do this together.
Yeah.
Not only because it's a good way to work, but it's the right way.
It's people's lives.
Yeah.
And if someone isn't willing to know you well enough to know that you have kids and a dog, and it's a lot of risk.
Yeah.
Kind of like if you're we both have kids. So I'm gonna use a kid example. Like you want your doctor or your midwife to care a lot when you're giving birth. Because it doesn't matter that they've done 1,000 births.
Yeah.
It's your kid.
It's your kid.
And your life and their life and the mom's life. And like that matters. Yeah. And it needs to matter every time. Every time. And same thing with your real estate broker and your lender. Like they meet a lot of people.
Yeah.
And they look at a lot of numbers and they've got a big fat spreadsheet.
Yeah.
And do you matter every time? And if you feel like you don't matter,
you need to have a conversation with
start with a conversation, but you need to be seen. Yeah. If you feel not seen, that's a red flag. You need to be seen.
So let's go through some fun stuff.
Okay.
All right. Favorite food.
Oh gosh, I should have thought of this beforehand. Sushi every time.
Love it.
Oh man.
Love it. Sushi so good. Pizza for me.
Pizza for you? Okay. What kind of pizza?
Honestly, it's my pizza. It's
pizza.
It's homemade.
Homemade pizza. You do the dough too?
We do the dough. We have the outdoor oven.
Man, that's commitment.
It's a hobby and kind of a lifestyle a little bit.
Yeah.
I love going through the processes of things. I love investing time into learning something new. And when I find that one thing that just makes me tick, like it's pizza, it's coffee, it's music, it's barbershop quartets. That's my.
You get into the nitty gritty, huh? The details.
Yeah,
it's the artistic nature of it.
It's the learning the science behind fermentation. It's bake times. It's styles of pizza. It's all of those things. And it's the same. Yeah, a lot of that goes into a bunch of different aspects of my life. So yeah, pizza. Yeah,
pizza. So good.
Favorite housing style.
Ooh, mid-century modern. That was that home that we bought.
Yeah.
That's the Airbnb.
Yeah.
It was a custom-made home out of the 70s.
Yeah.
So it's like 14-foot ceilings, tongue-and-groove cedar walls, like 10-foot windows. I mean, it is small. It is 910 square feet.
Yeah.
It is tiny.
But
it is like artisan. Oh, that's my jam.
That's funny because it's my favorite too. There's this house in Silverton that's mid-century modern, and they totally redid it. It's got the cedar wood accents outside. It's got black. It's got the flat roof.
Oh, I just painted ours black too. Yes. Oh, tricorn black, best color ever.
I mean, it just went up for sale. I mean, it had like the integrated blender into the kitchen sink. It was so good.
That's
so good.
Classic.
So classic. Weekend activity of choice.
Day trip to the beach with my kids and my hubby.
Nice.
Yeah, that's like everyone can recharge in their own way.
Yeah.
And I like when I say beach, I mean like the Oregon Coast beach. I like that crisp, cool weather.
Yeah.
Like if
like
I have
Lincoln
to,
City, or where do you guys head out to?
we go to Nesquin. That's where we have our land, and
Cool.
it's just a nice big parking spot at the moment.
Yeah.
So we park on a very expensive parking spot.
Yeah.
And we go there to the Ghost Forest, and usually we order a pizza. Actually, we call ahead
Heck yeah.
to the local restaurant there. We order pizza. We pick up the pizza.
Oh.
We have the pizza on the beach, and the kids run and play in the Salmon Creek there. And my husband likes to stand in the water, like up to his knees, and it's like a factory reset for the brain, waves, and it's just great.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
Like having that ability to just go somewhere and unplug and recharge with your family.
Yeah.
It doesn't get any better.
And like for everyone's needs to be met in a scenario. Like that's hard. Like the bigger the family you have, everyone wants to engage.
Yeah.
You're good. Everyone wants to engage differently.
Yeah.
So having a way for everyone to like every person to rest in a way that they actually come back restored. Like is really good.
Mine is a little bit different. It's more of like a whole day. Like I'll plan out like here's my favorite Saturday. We wake up, make coffee for me and my wife. We sit down. Hopefully we don't get interrupted by kids and life and whatever. I mean, we tried that this last weekend on Saturday, and I had like 3 phone calls that like I'm like, all right, this coffee was great. Have a nice day. But doing that, spending time with the kids, getting to go down into the studio and sing and play guitar and record music or whatever.
Yeah.
That's like my decompression.
Okay.
And my reset, and then ending the day again with like pizza, like taking that time making it. I love providing for my family, like for them, like they love pizza night because it's like it's a treat for them, but it's a treat for me because I get to do that for them.
Yeah, it's a craft.
Yeah,
you're approaching it with a craftsman mindset.
Yeah.
So do you feel like it's an artistic expression? Even
absolutely,
yeah,
absolutely, because it's everybody's different. Everyone's scenario, everyone's pizza's different. Everyone's toppings that they like are different. It's definitely like, hey, here's my style for what I do.
There's something about the rhythm of memories created too, and that's why we tend to go to the same. I mean, even if we didn't have the land there, like to go to the same spot on the beach because we're reinforcing memories with that location. And it changes a bit, the sand changes and things like that. But like to have a rhythm of like, this is what we do really cements that. Yeah. And I'm really excited for the future that has. And I imagine for you
as they grow up, like having like going back to that spot and the nostalgia of it and the good memories of it. Like for me, that place is, Mammoth Lakes, California. It's like It's this little spot called Benton Crossing. It's got this little river running through this wide open valley and these fields, and you have 360 degrees of the Sierra Nevadas. And
I love
we're
it.
going there growing up and fishing with my parents, and when my girls got old enough, we got to take them back to that same spot and just standing there and looking, and you want to cry. It's like it's such a beautiful space, number one, but
Yeah.
going back to those feelings of being a kid and spending time with family, and
It's rich.
it doesn't get any better.
And your kids are going to have that too with the pizza. Like we remember pizza night with dad every
Yeah.
Saturday night, you know, like that's cool.
Pets.
Pets. We have 8 chickens. We used to have 9 chickens.
Yeah.
We lost one. But we are chickens.
Yeah.
Is our fun pet of choice.
Nice.
Yeah.
We have 0 pets.
0 pets.
The kids keep me so busy as it is. Because it's so much. So we have a chicken coop from like the last owners. It's like the nicest chicken coop you could ever see.
Luxury chicken
They
coop.
had pigeons there in there. They had chickens. It's like a hotel, but like it's not being used at the moment.
I love it. I have a lot of friends that are like, you should get a dog. And I was like, I already have critters that eat off the ground and
Yeah.
here where they're not supposed to.
Yeah.
I'm good.
So you mentioned you're not originally from Salem. Like where are you from?
I grew up in Goldendale, Washington.
Okay. Where is that in?
That is South Central Washington. We call it the Golden Gate of Washington.
Got it.
My mom's family was there for years. Like
Cool.
they were ranchers, had land, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I grew up in a small town called Vista, California. It's in the San Diego area.
Nice.
My dad was in commercial real estate and lending, and at one point he ran a brokerage out of their bedroom with my mom. But then he's 66 years old now. He's still a state beach lifeguard for the state of California.
Whoa.
So lifeguarding beach was definitely a lifestyle for us growing up, and he's still kicking it. Like he still goes down there 2 weeks out of the year and does the work that he needs to do to stay qualified to be a lifeguard. And I think he's the oldest one in the state.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So where can people find you? Like, how can people get a hold of you? Social media, websites? What does that look like for you?
Yeah, I just started a YouTube channel, which I'm super excited about.
Okay.
And that's my name, Heather Rauh.
Okay.
Rauh. It's kind of a funny one. And I'm on TikTok. I've got a website that's in process. I say that. Google Business. I mean, if you Google my name, like I'm there. Or Selrich.
You're the Heather Rauh.
I am the Heather Rauh.
Yeah.
I actually have one of those emails that say just my name.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't have any numbers or extras because it's an unusual last name. So.
Yeah. So cool.
Yeah.
Well, I think that wraps it up. But so if you guys want to get a hold of Heather, definitely Google her. Find her on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, wherever you mainly do social media. She is probably on there. And if you want to listen more to this podcast, we are at WillametteValleySpotlight.com and on Spotify. So thank you so much, Heather.
Thank you,
for
Billy.
coming on, and we'll see you soon.
This is great. Thanks.
Thank you.